Welcome back to Alphos and Sweet, a Life and Lorcana podcast where today's mostly going to be about Lorcana because we've got some juicy Set 7 reveals for you, some of them exclusive to this channel, and the rest are just interesting reveals, but we got from a big drop of reveals just today at time of recording, which is Monday. But first, how are you doing, Harlan? How you been?
I'm very good, and it was very nice to end Store Champs because there's always this like bitter feeling, especially because they give you like 8 weekends to do them on now, and I quite set my challenge of I really wanted to get into it because I didn't enjoy the Madriel one because I didn't really commit myself to it, and like this time we've just done loads. It's that bittersweet feeling of like you had a really good time but it's come to an end, like, and of course like there was a lot of competitive play, like there's a lot of really good like local sweats and stuff, and we had a really good time and you get to see them again. But of course, it's not like the peak of it's not like day twoing continentals or anything like that, is it? So it was just like altogether just a really good few weekends, and you kind of feel a little bit lost on what to do now. But I guess I'm gonna get ready for Axiom, which I'll be playing at next month.
Oh, yeah, that's exciting. I had a look at Axiom, and if I had the funds, I would have loved to compete in it to send off Set 6, which I think has been quite a good format,
Yeah, yeah.
to be honest. So I've been quite happy with it.
It's mad to think that I've got like another month of playing Set 6, but it's also great that like this set keeps shifting. Like Candio wins an event in America, and like Diggy Hole is really big, and then Dinkan Fan plays this like new RB build, and it's like really big. So it's like I think even between like now and when Axiom's on, someone's gonna win something with some new build or whatever, and it's just gonna flood the meta game as well. And it's not massive shifts, but like in your testing environments, and especially like store champs, you really see the shift. Like Diggy Hole was everywhere, but of course Dinkan Fan kind of won right at the end of store champs, so I didn't see that list everywhere. But it's been really interesting. Like you said, the set's pretty good actually. It's pretty solid. There's a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, really well balanced. Everyone was scared that Diablo Emerald Steel was going to take over the format once again, but you haven't really seen much of it.
No, I generally as well. I played Ruby Amethyst on the last set champs on Sunday. I know it's weird. I don't always play Sapphire Steel because I was like, well, there's no Prince Johning anything. I played two Prince John decks in a row. I played the red one, red emerald, and then green steel, like one after another. And it's just that thing of like, it's insane to try and meta predict for your local environment. Like people just take whatever they want, don't they? Like it's not
No,
like
they
a big
literally
event.
do, yeah.
Yeah, people just play whatever they want, and it was like, okay, Ruby Amethyst really wasn't the call for this day.
I actually think quote unquote like bad deck building works kind of better for locals because you literally could run into anything, so it might be worth having a more spread balance in terms of having answers to as many decks as you can to a certain degree, right? You're not going to be teching in for little Timmy's first ever green blue Lorcana deck, but well, in stark contrast to like an event where you expect a lot more competition, like EU Continentals, like a DLC, where really it would be a mistake to spread your deck too thin and not just hone in on a few matchups to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, when I played the Sapphire Steel wheel, like I think it was the Ursula one, like I played two people and their decks were entirely just location spamming, and of course I just hadn't predicted that they were going to be playing like Green Fang or whatever, and no disrespect to those players, like they're not playing at the highest level, but those decks were giving me the most challenge, because it's like, yeah, of course I never built this thinking I'd have to take out the location Fang or like RLS Legacies and stuff like that. So yeah, those stuff gets you off guard, but it's all good fun. Store Champ's always great. I still think the deck that shined the best was Amber Steel Diggy Hole, because it's just proactive. You almost don't care what your opponent's doing half the time. You just solitaire spam stuff and win.
Yeah, I also think part of why Dinkum Farms deck would have done especially so well in the Melbourne meta is that it's quite a fresh meta in the sense that it's essentially their first ever major Set 6 event and just DLC event, that people don't really have the year of experience playing around red-blue cards like they did in Europe, like they did in North America, and especially not with Dinkum Farm's version where they're so focused on lore gain. No amount of watching VODs is going to save you from 4 Pirates Life 4 Goofy.
No, like within, because of course with my Sapphire Steel Kiwi list, there's like I still want to keep working on that. It's, there's another deck I have to practice into now, and we did it, and it's kind of like on the play you're just really fine to win. On the draw you struggle the same way you do with any deck that can ramp into hard removal. But someone did say he played like a 58 similar card list in both Continentals, and it didn't perform that well for him. So there is that thing of like, is this deck gonna actually stick around? Like, is it this new exciting thing? I played like Ruby Amethyst into it as well in practice, and it was like as long as you took out the sharks, they just had a bunch of actions in hand. So it would be
Yeah.
like develop your brain into visions into how far I go. All right, past turn because they've got no shark, which you're always reliant on, and then they slam some manas down later on in the game. So yeah, it's an interesting list. I'm really expecting people to see it, and like like Reese's list in EU Continentals.
Yeah.
Like people are saying like, oh, that was like, and also I'm not going to use the word better. I was about to say better, but like that one has a bit more playability because it uses the Flynn Sisu and it has the big Sisus as well. So it's like I think maybe we're just going to see lists that are like that, like the Dinkham Fam and like Reese's list, but maybe not
Well,
like card for card.
yeah, it's meta dependent.
Yeah.
I yeah, no, because I think Reese's list isn't necessarily better in a vacuum, but it was definitely better for that format for EU Continentals. Also, I quite like, in a sense, that Din's list was almost like a Frankenstein monster of every red-blue list that showed up to EU Continentals. You had the now infamous, for other reasons at the Melbourne DLC, Team Inkless list, which was running 4 manas and everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
And then you had, the 4 goofies from Reese's list. And then I like to think that Dinkum Farm sitting at my LCQ looking through my deck might have inspired him with the Pirate Life a little bit, which brings us to the 4 Pirate Life, which I think when you combine them all together, it brings a new angle to red-blue that people just wouldn't be used to playing against if most of Australia was essentially just net decking the European and North American meta to learn the format. It's not going to prepare you for having to play around that much lore game.
I think like most people were referring to it as like red blue burn, and it kind of is red blue burn, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's just spamming like cards that give you cheap lore. Like even Goofy in a sense is his own burn card, because even if you watch his games, he was running it into like a Maleficent just because he wanted the 2 lore. He didn't really care about the 2 damage he puts on Maleficent. So it's really interesting, and it just shows you like the depth of set 6. Like that list was kind of around, and now it's like really around, and you would expect to see it at bigger events. Like when I do Axion, I expect to see some versions of that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think whenever a deck wins the tournament, even if it's was right for that meta, but wrong for the next meta, like Reese's list definitely was, and like maybe Dinkum Farm's list is, people are always just going to run it back and copycat net deck, and then find out, hey, turns out that this is a completely different meta now, and I've been caught with my pants down, and the deck doesn't work for me anymore.
It's exactly the same with Ed's RP lists. Like they're so tailored for that event, and then you take it to your local store champs. It's like, why am I losing to all these steel songs? It's like, you haven't got any elses, you haven't got any way to like interact with the board early. Like that was really built to take on a certain meta where they'd predicted a lot of Ruby Sapphire, but of course it just doesn't win locally. So yeah, it's just really interesting.
Really, really cool. But let's move on, because we're going to keep this episode short today, despite the amount of content that is jam-packed in. First off is my exclusive reveal, assuming this is, edited on time or on good pace. Today should be Friday, so if it's not Friday, I've probably revealed it on Twitter already, but I'd like to say it's an exclusive reveal, and the card is Lyle Tiberius Rock. Now, this card is a 8-cost 6/4 Ruby card that quests for free, which is a pretty meh stat line. There's some bad cards that have been printed with this sort of stat line. I guess the only redeeming factor is that its ability is quite interesting, especially for red-blue, which can be inking cards constantly, where once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, deal 2 damage to each character in play. Now, if you gave this card Ward, perhaps, maybe with Alice, maybe with what's her name, Aurora, you might be able to see a little bit more survivability for the card, which could give you some more value. I just think the tough thing is 2 damage. 2 damage pings are really good. You see that in Steel. Steel would love a card like this, but who's playing Ruby Steel? You can't actually ink enough to make it worth it. I guess if you're inking twice in a turn, it goes up to 4 damage. But I just think compared to all the other things you can play in red-blue, it's probably just not going to have an impact outside of like niche draft and limited format scenarios.
Yeah, I think it's going to see some play the first week. I think you'll expect to see it around, and like you say, it'll probably be like some people test it out. like some sealed and draft, like some funky lists will try it. But it's that thing of in TCGs, like the lifespan of a card, it doesn't stick on the board very long, especially when it has 4 health and no ward. And if you're at a point of the game where you can afford 8 and to also ink once or twice that turn, you're probably close to closing out the game anyway, so you don't really need to fight for the board that hard. So it's an interesting one. I don't know. Do you reckon you could even do like a one-off spice with it? Like, just throw it in there to make people have to check for the card?
No, because I don't think the threat is big enough to make them check for it, because the main thing it's hitting is aggro decks, and aggro decks are aiming to run you down before you're reaching 10 ink.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what you're looking at with this card. And then once you do 10 ink, you've done 4 damage. Cool. Where's the rest of your hand to do more damage?
Yeah, and there's that thing of like, wouldn't Sisu just kind of do a better job? The big Sisu.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I definitely think it will cease play for the first week.
If you spend your time testing this card, I think minus expected value. You should test other cards. I don't recommend it.
You're not selling your card. You're not selling it at all, man.
No. This is my reveal. I haven't gotten any competitively viable reveals, and I'm just going to be a grumpy old man until I do.
Someone out there listening.
The closest one was last set where I got the Mickey Mouse.
Which one did you get?
I got the Mickey Mouse that synergizes with the Captain Pirate.
The red one, yeah. I mean, someone out there who's listening, please make Alphonse eat his words and make this viable and day 2 a DLC with it. And then come back and tell us.
If you day 2 a DLC with Lyle Tiberius Rourke, I will...
We'll have you on the episode. We'll have you on that episode, of course.
Yeah. We'll have you on for like a 10-second clip telling me how stupid I am.
10 seconds. No, a full feature-length special on why Lyle...
60 minutes of how unintelligent I am.
But yeah, I don't know. If people want to try cards, I think definitely people will try this through the ringer to see how it is, but yeah, that's all I can say on it.
Right, shall we move on to hopefully some brighter prospects with a Harlan card, who should have revealed it on their channel yesterday.
Yes.
Harlan, is your card any more viable than mine?
No. As someone who's been trying to sell these cards, I have been sitting on this one for a little while. So we've got Lucky Runt of the Litter. It is a Sapphire rare card. And it's a 1/3, uninkable 3 cost, quest for 2, and has the ability Follow My Voice. When this character quests, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may reveal any number of puppy character cards, and put them in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Okay? I always do that first thing of, could you just slot this into a set 6 deck, or the previous set, and does it work? No, it does not work. Just off the bat.
It sounds amazing. It sounds really, really good.
I think every time I've looked at this card and I've tried to discuss it, it's been, unless puppies are going to get real cool real soon, I don't know what I can say about it. Of course, we've got a lot of puppies in the Amber deck, and people love puppies. Like, actually, I find like every locals has that like person who is still on it and has like, oh, I've got like 25 tail wagger puppies in my deck, and it's like, cool. I all I can say is this like set is themed around animals and stuff. It's all the pets and animals from Lorcana. So I'm pretty much expecting more puppy cards, more Dalmatians, and I hope they keep them into the... It'd be really nice to give Amber and Sapphire a bit more of an identity, because it doesn't really have one right now. So it has that aggro list that kind of appears, with the Svens and the Daisies and Allison like resetting it, that we saw like Theotime play. But like, I'd like it to have like a real identity. So I think maybe some tier 3, tier 2 puppy deck is what I'm expecting from this. But yeah, I think maybe some more puppy cards. This could be playable.
Do you know what, Adam? You mentioned those 25 puppies, right? If we see 25 puppies in a meta deck, I will gladly send them to banishment with my CC.
So you play this, you quest, you get your puppies, you play them, and then you play the puppy card that is, you get 1 lore for every character that quests that turn or something. I can't actually remember what it's called. I'm
not letting you quest. I'm playing my CC down.
It's I don't know. It's a cute card. I think definitely there'll be like people who love the puppy decks, and I know there is a fan base for it, are gonna love it. Of course, it's probably, unless I see some releases on some other amazing puppy cards, I'm probably not gonna jump to include this into my Sapphire Steel aggro list that I've been playing recently. But yeah, I don't know. Anyone out there who's got like, again, I'll give the same challenge to the Lyle Tiberius Rorke card. I think my challenge might be a bit harder, but if you could day two with a puppy-based deck using Lucky, you're definitely allowed on the channel. You're allowed on the episode.
Yeah, yeah.
But
What was I going to say? I was going to say, no. There's one thing I'm happy for these puppy cards, for the new set. I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast before, but I know I've definitely told you and others at the DLC, is that this set is going to be amazing for bringing in a new audience. As you said, there's a fan base of puppies. Do you know what's a big fan base with a lot of spending power, considering how much their suits cost? Furries, mate. This is the set that brings the furries into Lorcana. Lorcana, Disney's rubbing their hands together. They're going, ho ho ho, we're bringing the furries in. Furries and Disney, name a more iconic duo. We're gonna see the best sold set in Lorcana's existence after the first chapter.
Mark
my words.
I didn't even think that direction. I thought because a lot of people love the cute animals in Disney, and like that's a big selling point for them. But no, you went to furries.
Well, furries love the cute animals.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah. Shout out to the furry community.
This set, man, it's gonna do numbers. It's going up.
Yeah, I mean
the shareholders, they're happy.
Shareholders are happy. Yeah, you got like Bolt and stuff like that in there. Yeah, I think it's. I love
Bolt. It's actually a really good movie. Have you seen it? You haven't seen any Disney movies.
I've watched a fair few now. I know there's a hamster in it that I'm excited to see.
People say I don't love Lorcana. This man hasn't even watched a Disney movie.
I watched both.
To him, this game could just be like blank white paper cards with little Comic Sans font describing what they do.
I watched both the Frozen movies the other day. And
you said you disliked both of them to me.
And I shouldn't have said that. And for Archazia and I will be dressing up as Kristoff. And my partner will be dressing up as Anna. So, I'm in.
That's cute. You're in.
And our other friend is dressing up like Elsa. We're going as a full little gang.
Oh, lovely.
And we're looking for someone to dress up like Sven.
You can ride them.
Well, Artabax is coming, and we've suggested that he dresses up as Sven.
He could be the Sven.
Yeah.
Wait, can you do it like the Chinese New Year style, where you have like the front legs and the back legs, and they set up like the deer?
We did suggest like two people have a suit and like one person be the behind and one people be the front bit, and then we can have like a giant Sven. I don't know. If anyone listening wants to be Sven, I don't know why I keep shouting out to the audience, but if anyone...
Well, you said Artabax, right? You should get Artabax and Myra to be Sven.
That's what we suggested. I don't know how sold they were on that, because also coming to the UK and bringing an entire Sven suit.
Right, you bring it. You got to provide.
I've got to provide. Yeah.
You got to provide the Sven suit, and I want a picture of it on my desk by tomorrow morning.
My desk. I mean, I didn't mind Kristoff because it was like he sort of dresses like pretty basic. Like it's not like I'm going mad at. I'm not dressing like Jafar with like a mustache and stuff, am I? Like it's
you're dressing like you're an over enthusiastic tourist at like the Yuletide festival.
yeah. Like I think it'll be fine. And in worst comes to worst, I'll just buy a little like toy Sven and just carry it around with me. Thing is, I'm not excited to be at the bottom table. People going, "Are you Harlan?" And I'm dressed like Kristoff, just losing really bad. I'm like table 500. I'm like, why do I dress like this? Wearing a blonde wig. But,
although on the other hand, imagine you on the top table, featured match, and you're wearing like the most half-assed Kristoff cosplay. It's like falling apart at the seams.
I did look at them, and it's like I'm gonna buy like a 50 quid kit, like there's like websites, like cosplay sites. I don't know. I'm not that good at cosplay. I'm sure I'll get into it. This is just like starter for me. But
I really want to try cosplay. Me and my partner have discussed that we'll try and go to a con sometime and try cosplay. Maybe we would just do a cosplay at a DLC. It's not a bad idea.
That's fair enough. Yeah. I'd really like to do it. It's always that thing of like actually how much effort it goes in to be good at cosplay. Like, and then like if you're like me, who's not particularly socially confident, I've turned up in a terrible cosplay that even I don't think's good. Like, so it'd have to be good enough.
I think the best like ratio to effort value, in effort to output value, is you buy one of those like trashy 50 quid cosplays, but then you like spend a day, maybe half a day, with some like fabric that your friend
Yeah.
owns because they do cosplay, and just like, fix it up a bit. Close up the seams, add some detailing, and maybe in a few hours you can zhuzh it up and it looks like a really good handmade cosplay.
Yeah, I think so. Right, I
Yeah.
think we are quite sidetracked on cosplay.
No, we've divulged. We've
Yeah, I
definitely
mean, I was
divulged.
wondering how I'm going to release this card and talk about it, like meta viable, but it seems the best way to do it is instantly go into a discussion about cosplay. So,
Well, it started because we made fun of it, and then we could segue into a conversation around it. Yeah.
yeah. Should we go to our next card of interest?
Right, yeah. I particularly want to talk about Bolt. There's 4 cards in this image. I won't really talk about the middle 2. Don't seem too interesting. But you really like the Jafar, and I'm pretty interested in the Bolt. So the Bolt is a dual ink card between Amber and Steel. It is a 5-cost inkable Bolt Super Dog, free 5, shift for free. It quests for 2 with 2 abilities. First one is Mark of Power. Whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each other undamaged character you have in play. And the other one we don't really care too much about. It's very niche. Tap to banish chosen illusion character. I doubt that second effect is going to come into play. It might if there's any viable illusions. The main thing we're looking at is that whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each other undamaged character you have in play. So it is a delayed effect. It does need to live. But as a way to close out lore, let's say you got like 2 free Lilos in grave. You have the bolts about to re-ready. You spend 6 ink to play free Lilos exerted. Then they have to choose between letting the Lilos live on the board or taking out the bolts so they don't trigger extra lore when they ready and then quest for 2 each. I think that proposes like a pretty hard board state to deal with. Because you just play 5 on one turn, you ink to 6, you play 3 Lilos, 2 to 3 Lilos from your grave on the next turn. That's actually pretty threatening.
Yeah, I think with this card as well, like you'd want to quest with it when you can because it quests for 2, and you just do that. But I wouldn't. I'd be, unless I had like Pluto or some way to protect it, I'd be feeling quite unsafe waiting for it to ready at the start of the next turn. But you do have cards like Sven and the Simba Floodborn that readies your cards at the when at your command. I think Sven is on play, and then Simba is at the end of the turn. So you have ways to force to get that lore earlier rather than waiting for it to ready from.
Which could be an amazing closer.
Yeah, I'm thinking massive combos. I'm also thinking, like you say, you play it and it's like, well, something has to be removed from this board because otherwise they're going to gain a ton of lore. Is it going to be these Lilos or is it going to be this Bolt? Also, I want to say one interesting point. That Bolt card, the art on that was the one that people started predicting dual ink colors. That was the card that everyone was tweeting going, oh, look at this, because it's like got a bit steel and it's a bit like it's amber. It must be a dual. And I couldn't tell from the picture, but it ended up being the card everyone predicted, an amber steel dual ink card. So that's kind of cool. I don't know, and it has that weird flavor thing of banished chosen illusion character. I don't know if I can call it weird. It's just if you're playing an amber steel deck, like how many action-based removal do you have in that deck? You're probably not going to need to banish things with that, are you? Like to exert the
probably
card.
Probably not, but because probably not. But I mean, it's there, right?
It's
if you
just
have
flavor,
no
isn't
option,
it?
it's there.
Yeah, it's like
it's honestly the kind of text that I'd be playing with it in a tournament, forget it exists, and then get flamed by Twitch chat and like lose a top 32 match.
It's like Rafiki can't take damage from hyenas level, isn't it? It's like that.
Oh, I forgot that has that text.
And like Banzai as well, like is one that because you could take out a Banzai and it wouldn't get removed. And there's like Captain Amelia can't take damage from pirates. There's weird little things like that, but that's probably just flavor, isn't it? The banished. But yeah, I think it's a really cool card, and I'm. The issue is though, in my opinion, you've got all these amazing combos, and Frank Carsten was trying really hard with the Simba. He even took it to EU Continentals, and I think that card's really cool because you can get to that point where you could just restand the Lilos, so they can't even challenge remove them anymore, and you screw over a lot of like Ruby decks that aren't using steel removal. But the issue is it's so many combo pieces, and it's so hard to set up when you could just play Amber Steel Dock Mines, where it's like slam every character and play a dock, and that gets you results, So like, do you need to set up?
To be fair to it though. If you... So you're right. normally, if it's only the Simba, so many combo pieces, not very consistent. All of those combo pieces that work with Simba also work with Bolt. So you could just do a Bolt Simba deck. Cats and dogs.
Yeah,
Bish bash bosh.
I think 100% you'll see people who are trying to make these Bolt Simba decks, and I think that's exactly what you need to do. It's just when you get down to that like nuts and bolts of, I'm doing all this work to get a win rate that might not even be better than the Amber Steel Doc Mines deck. So it's like, why would I not just play that? But that's just me being maybe a grumpy person who picks very meta precise decks, and then, well, I say that and then I play Sapphire Steel. But it's that thing of, well, what's going to actually give me the best win rate here? Is it trying to get the Simba chain like combo off, or is it just playing Doc Mines? So I think it will definitely 100% see play the first week, and people like Bolt.
I think we can't jump too early. Like, it's not necessarily worse than Doc Mines if we haven't tested how it would actually perform, because we have no idea what the deck looks like. We've just seen this one spoiler card, and we know a possible synergy with Simba and Lilos.
I'm pretty much certain its shift lines won't be very good unless it got a 1-drop, because right now in Lorcana all your 2-drops for steel are so good, like Calhoun and Smee. And even they've got their Ursulas on. They've got so many 2-drops they prefer to play. So if the Bolt was a 2-drop, it'd have to be amazingly good. But then also you lose it when you shift it. So the best shift targets, for my opinion, are always like 1-drops that are basically just maybe got an on-play or a goon or something. So, but I think we saw them and they weren't. I'm just gonna check now. They weren't actually any good. They were like 2-drops and stuff like that. Yeah, there was a 2-drop Bolt Steel card, and there's a 4-drop Amber Bolt card. So
yeah, it's the one that when you ready it, when you quest, you cycle.
Yeah, if you got like a Bolt Goon, like you've got with Robin Hood, like a 2/2, I'd be fine with that, because sometimes the best play for Amber Steel is just to play a bunch of goons, because then you split all your shift lines up and one of them has to go off. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's really cool. I'm not an Amber Steel player, but I don't know where that direction with that deck's going, because we're seeing less Whole New World builds, and I'd imagine with this you'd want the Whole New World, wouldn't you?
Not necessarily.
You get an early shift and Sing Wheel.
Yeah, but then you're just giving your opponent answers to deal with your board.
Yeah, it's kind of how Wheel's been feeling a lot recently, and why we're seeing this big uprise in Doc, because Wheeling just feels bad right now in set 6. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, this just looks like a Doc deck, to be honest.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But my eyes...
before we continue to the next card, I want to say, for the first time on this channel, I said nothing about Sapphire Steel. Not a single negative word. And yet you have been conditioned. You have Stockholm Syndrome. I've forced you into critiquing your own love.
It's that thing of like, you have to say it before they say it. So you get the last, like, no, I'm in control of this. But yeah. I to be fair, I do think the build that I've been running has been the best choice for me personally. So yeah, but yeah, I just like to make fun of Sapphire Steel as well.
No, I really love your build. It's good fun.
And the Kiwis, yeah.
And named after me, obviously.
Someone I saw because it was playing in Melbourne, and I think maybe some people had it in discussion or brought it to the event, and of course you'd had players from New Zealand go to play, and they thought the name had some sort of connection there. I was like, no, I it's just an inside joke.
No, it did. It's to Alphos.
It is, yeah. The deck is dedicated to you.
Yeah, to Alphos and Z.
yeah. All right. Yeah, the card that on this image that has really taken my eyes is the Jafar card. Aspiring Rider. Oh, Ruler. Sorry, I'm grateful I leaned in a little bit there and read the full card. Aspiring Ruler. It's a free.
You got your glasses on. Man.
I do, yeah, but it's late and I'm getting older. It's a 3/2, 3-cost Inkable, quest for 2, Dreamborn Villain Sorcerer. I didn't mention that last time, but it has the ability that's better. When you play this character, chosen character gains Challenger +2 this turn. Now, in my opinion, it quests for 2, so straight away I'm like, I love this, and it's Inkable. You can buff a 1-drop and run it in. So like Purple Steel's gonna love that, because you imagine buffing like a Diablo and running it in. You can buff the 2-drop and make it into a 6 attacker, or a 5 attacker, sorry. Like if you had a Smee or a Calhoun and they attack for that much, like all around, I just think that card's awesome. And even if you just play it on curve, you're just playing a 2-quester. So I definitely think all these lows, like I'm gonna run that in Sapphire Steel for sure. I think it's gonna be a great way to like board equalize as well. just to get that challenger out, just to get a big quester on the board. You can also sing strength from it if you don't want to quest or do anything. So yeah, I think that card's just gonna be a staple for a lot of these low to the ground decks. The 2 health, yeah, that's a bit unsettling, but because you get an on play that's quite useful, it shouldn't matter too much.
Something I've just thought of, I want to think about, is traditionally, back in set 3, the problem with Purple Steel Jafar Wheel was that you couldn't quite get enough lore in the early game to make it a 2-wheel win victory from the Jafar. This kind of helps that threshold a little bit and gives you more Jafar options.
I mean, they're doing this set, and I think the next set is like all about Jafar as well. So now Jafar wheel players must be like licking their lips. They must
drooling.
They must be utterly happy, yeah, because they're just getting a ton more shift targets, and all this illusion stuff might be cool for them as well. So yeah, I mean they've already got like Dreadnought and stuff to play on 3, but as you say, at Quest for 2, you could maybe cheese in some lore, play a Pluto or whatever, and protect it, or Pete. So yeah, I think all round it's just a really useful card, and people will push it, especially when you've got characters that you want to get banished like Diablo. But either you could be doing something like maybe in Greensteel, I don't know, I'm playing around with like Greensteel sort of aggro decks, like questing with a Merfolk and then using it to just randomly take out a Calhoun, or no, probably not a Calhoun, but something like a Smee or something like that. It'd just be awesome. I think overall the card's really cool, and it's those basic cards like that I find that the best parts of the set. You know, they're the ones that move the meta.
No, oh yeah, for sure. Especially when it's something that comes in this early. Like the first 3 turns are so important, and this is letting you on turn 3 make a valuable +2 damage trade.
Yeah,
like that's big.
And this was the segue I wanted. If you're done, if we're done on the Jafar card.
Oh, yeah.
Unless
let's segue.
Yeah, no, I thought saying like the most powerful cards of the sets are always these very minor cards that, you know, they just do something basic like that into a card like Ink Geyser. I was going to say Geyser, like we say in the UK, but that's not the correct term. It is Ink Geyser is an action 3 cost uninkable. Each player exerts all the cards in their inkwell. Then each player will with more than 3 cards in their inkwell returns cards at random from their inkwell to their hand until they have 3 cards in their inkwell. I read that horribly, but you know, it'll be on the screen so you can reread that. This is a card where everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is going to change the game. The game's broken." You know, we've got ways to. I think they said because if you're a Magic player, you'd say like destroy lands. We've got a way to like deny resources. I don't see this card making that much of a splash. Do you? Some people will try it, but I don't think it's amazing.
I disagree. I think it could work really well in an aggro deck into a control meta. I think this really hampers a lot of control decks' abilities that are a bit more greedy, like red-blue, some versions of red-purple, because all of their removal is at like 6, 7, 8 cost, right?
Yeah.
So if you're playing something that brings them down to 3 ink, and they're only going to have 4 ink, who cares if they just got like +4 cards in their hand? Maybe not into red-purple, because we'll still have foxes and stuff. But if you have a board set up, they're relying on the B prep, the grab your sword, the Sisu reset. You play this, and boom, it's done. You're winning the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's the thing, if this card was an ink color, like the color combo it's locked into is a bit, I don't know, a bit interesting. You can make an aggro list out of that, couldn't you?
This is the kind of polarizing card I was hoping for from Dual Inks, because this is traditionally quite a terrible deck. I think this gives it an angle where it could be quite good.
We just try and anger people to get them in the comments, don't we? Blue-green has a die-hard fan base, and saying it's traditionally a bad deck. I love it.
Well, I think the idea is the more people you piss off, the more engagement we get in the comments. You know?
Yeah. I think it's like, so the people who mainly have been, when I checked the different areas, like a lot of red-blue players, of course, are the ones who are upset. Because if you're playing a Doc Mines deck, or just like any Doc deck, like you going over 4 ink is mad. So you're just like, that's fine, you can do this to me. I won't care. But yeah, I think maybe it could be interesting, but I don't think it's gonna stick around. I think people are definitely gonna try and make it work. But yeah, maybe we've got.
I think the moment green-blue aggro is viable, this is a meta-defining card.
Yeah, it could be a thing where like in another set, where because you've got the Merfolks. Thing is, blue just doesn't have many aggro cards. They've got the Alice. That's how my list is sort of sticking around. But
you don't even need the blue cards in that case. You just play like 99% green.
You just play
cards
Merfolk and
the
Flynn,
Geyser.
and you just play
Yeah.
Prince John as well. Just because he.
Wait, would you be allowed to play Ink Geyser if you have no other blue cards because you just have green and a green blue?
Oh wow, that's interesting. I don't know how dual
Yeah.
colors work, but yeah. Can you use this in a mono green deck with just one Ink Geyser?
With this only being the non-mono green.
I don't know. Yeah,
I assume yes, surely.
I assume no one would care because they'd be like, "You're playing
Yeah.
a mono color card like deck. Just go, have fun."
Because the ruling will probably be if you're playing a dual link card, you can only have inks from that card within your deck.
Yeah, it'll probably be that, won't it? Only can be from Emerald and Sapphire. But yeah, I don't know. I'm always very bad at predicting how these cards will go, but I think this one's the flash in the pan. You've got like Bend to My Will is also in their list that of the deck we've just referred to as terrible. It's like
no, but I never thought that was good.
people really
Never
love that
thought that
card,
was
and it's
good.
like, and they were like, oh my god, this card is broken, and I'm like, you just sometimes get hit with a Bend to My Will, but it's like Pete is so strong in this meta that it just
Yeah, but that card was inherently terrible because you had to get to 7 ink to play it,
Yeah.
and by then people had already expended all of their cards, right?
which
this actually comes into play by like turn 5.
yeah. The thing with
I
like
mean, you'd still have ink left over to play an aggressive card.
I think
So you play. So if you're at 5 ink, sorry, I know you want to talk here. But if you're at, I'll finish my thought. If you're at 5 ink, you play like a 2 cost. You play 2 Merfolks. When you play Geyser, snap them back down to 3 ink. They go to 4 on their turn. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
If they're a control deck.
I mean, does the control deck generally have to think about this card going into the meta? Like, it has to be like, oh, if I get shrunk down to 3 ink, what do I do?
I think if it's a control meta, they have to. If it's an aggro meta, then Ink Geyser sucks because it's a card that's going to be bad in most of your games. But if it's a control meta, this card is meta defining as a counter pick.
Because I found with Bend to My Will is like people are really trying to make it work, and the way they do is like they'll use muses and Mother Knows Best to bounce cards. Because as you say, by the time they can play it, your hand's like 2 or 3. Because if you know that's what the deck does, you're just going to dump your hand anyway, aren't you?
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, I've got to bounce. I've got to get value out of this. So please put these cards back in your hand.
It's too much of a build around. Whereas this, you don't have to build around it. It just has to be a solid aggro core.
Yeah.
And then this is your counter to control cards.
Oh, so you could be an aggro deck, then you just throw that. Yeah, I kind of see what you mean.
Yeah, like you throw like 2 of these in.
Yeah, so you're aggroing with the Merfolks, and you're like, hold on, you're getting a little bit too ahead on your ink. You might actually have answers now. Here's an Ink Geyser. Trinket all. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And if you're discarding their cards anyway, then let's say you discard their cards, they've got 1 card left in hand, they finally have enough ink because they've been inking and discarding all their cards, right? It's red-blue. You play this, all the cards go back to their hand. They have no ink. It's just, I think it would be very consistent against control decks.
The 2 deck, I mean, red-blue is the big one that you're thinking about, but then like, I guess red-purple as well aims to get a high. It does take a bit more time. And then Sapphire Steel, like, I guess is also in there. But, like, overall, it's mainly, like, all the aggro decks you probably just wouldn't care about this card. You probably don't even want them having more cards in their hand, you know? Because if they've inked some cards and you're like, we'll have it back.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll just throw those.
Terrible against aggro.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say you sold on me. I'm excited to see if it does make a splash and an impact. Again, that's a color combo where, like, people really love blue-green and the bounce discard stuff, but it doesn't have a full identity yet. Like, it's not... Like, not every player knows that's what blue-green is. So, it's why I was mentioning about my lucky card, the Sapphire card. It's like, I think I could play that in Empire Sapphire, and these color combos that don't have a big identity, like, let's give them one. And they had a real good opportunity here with these color combo cards.
Yeah, no, that's what I was super excited for. I think this card is the best example of that we've seen, of trying to give the underrepresented deck a direction to go in with a more powerful tool.
Should we jump into the Sapphire Steel one, which I don't think is amazing, but I also don't think it's terrible, and that's kind of been my view on a lot of these reveals. I don't think any of them have been overpoweredly broken, but I also don't think they're unplayable. So we have Lady Cluck, which is like the first Sapphire Steel one, which of course I'll do videos on their one when they get released. Protective Confidant, Storyborn Ally, 5-cost Inkable, 2/7, Crest for 1, Bodyguard, and Ward. Now, of course, if you're playing like the Kiwi list, like the aggro list that I've got, you could instantly see why this card would be viable there. I think it does a lot of work there. Of course, the only real threat is the big Sisu, the 8-cost Sisu. And it's the fact that it's inkable means that you could just ink it in those matchups. I think you play a low counter this, and it'd be really fun. You know, things that run into it aren't going to get damaged as much as a what's it called? A Chiempo, which that's kind of the value of Chiempo is he has 4 strength. So if it's a challenge-based meta or a challenge-based matchup, you know, they'll run it in and they have to basically remove everything. That's not the strength you get here. The strength you get here is that if you're against Steel Song or any like steel action-based removal deck, you're like, no, everything has to run into this. So I think that you'd give everyone a challenge except for like maybe Purple Steel. That was the Foxes and the Crabs. But like Amber Steel, besides like Lawrence and a couple of the 2-drops, they don't really want to be running things into your characters. They want to turn sideways and sing songs. Like that's all they do. So I think, yeah, it'd be great. You could like, with my build, you could like Smee, Alice, Pluto, Lady Cluck, then a Cogsworth on top, or other way around. So I think I'm definitely going to try this card out. I thought, yeah, not overpowered, but decent.
I think you bring a good point. If it just had 1 damage more, then it could still fit Chiempo's original inclusion in Sapphire Steel of being really good against red-purple, because it, you know, was a big body. But, you know, then with the ward, it would probably be too OP into red-blue. So that's why they couldn't give it free attack.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think into red-blue has an answer, but it's not always a clean answer except for Sisu. Like, Maui's not a completely clean answer. So I think it could find a place in certain versions of Sapphire Steel. Probably not the wheel ones.
No.
I think you'd still rather go Chiempo there. But for the aggro, the more aggro type ones, like your Kiwi Bird list, I could see it working.
Yeah, it's just a card where I thought, wow, this is not going to change the meta, but definitely the same way Chiempo works. I think like it doesn't change the meta, but if an Amber Steel Doc Mines deck puts Chiempo in, or I put it in myself, you have to think about it. You know, you have to think, well, maybe next turn they do have Chiempo and they're going to play it on me. And Lady Cluck's just another card where it's like, well, maybe they have this, and I'm going to have to, you know, be able to do 7 damage to something next turn or whatever. But I think, yeah, you build up a board, put Cogsworth, next turn play Lady Cluck, turn everything sideways, and just full quest it out. So, yeah, I mean, I'm only mentioning this card because, of course, that's my whole gig. That's Sapphire Steel. But, yeah, it's not really a shine out from the ones we've seen. So I think we could jump into the next one, which is the Giant Cobra, which is another one that's getting a bit of a splash. And I think on first view, you just think it's not great. I think some players will think that. But it's pretty interesting what it can do. Giant Cobra, something Serpent. Sorry, they gave us a very bad screenshot. It's a 3-cost inkable 4/4 quest for 1. It has Vanish, and it has an ability called Mysterious Advantage. When you play this character, you may choose and discard a card to gain 2 lore. I think it's just the fact that on the play you're just going to gain 2 lore. That's what a lot of people are loving about it. It's a Amethyst Steel color combo linked card. But also as well, like I saw a lot of red players being upset about this, and I kind of get it because it has Vanish, which is just you target it and it gets removed. But they don't have a lot of targetable actions for this. Like you can't brawl it. And on top of that, what else do they have? So they'd have to deal with it like conventionally, I think, like a Maui maybe or something.
They can Maui it, they can Fox it.
Yeah, yeah, like red purple can. I think it's getting that.
Yeah, most of the value comes from the gain 2 lore. Yeah.
Yeah, that 2 lore on the play is like just really nice. And then of course,
and hopefully free lore because it's got a very hard stat line to deal with being a 4/4 Vanish.
Yeah, and if it doesn't get removed that turn, like maybe you bounce it and use it again.
Yeah.
I can see why people were getting upset. It's like another reach card for purple. Like, did they need more reach cards? But this one is
specifically purple steel, so it's not affecting the rest of the purple meta. And you do have to discard a card, which is a fairly heavy cost. I could see it working in purple steel because they have enough draw where, let's say you accidentally draw 2 docks, play a Cobra, get rid of one of the docks, boom, plus 2 lore.
Yeah, you're going to have bricked cards. I mean, I guess if you went like White Rose into Cobra, it's like you're building up a board, maybe not the best board, but you've gained 3 lore whilst doing it, and you haven't even turned anything sideways yet, you know? And then the next turn, well, it is a 3 cost, sorry, I thought it was a 4 cost. No, okay, imagine you play this, and then you play a goat the next turn, huh? You've gained 3 lore, and there you go, quick little fix there. You've gained 3 lore, and you haven't really done anything, and you know, you're being rewarded for building up a board that's fairly fragile, but decent at the same time. So like, it's just I can see why people like it. I don't think it's insane because it has this vanish ability, but yeah, there's also a Jafar that when you vanish something, when it's something that has illusion is banished, it's returned to their hand. So if you don't deal with
Mm.
that and then you play this card, every time you remove it, you just return it to your hand and then play it again. The only issue with that card, the Jafar, I believe it was a 2/4, so it's like one of the easiest things to remove in the game.
Yeah, but I guess if you're removing that, you're not removing the
Yeah,
Cobra to a degree.
you could get into a purple steel, like just flood the board sort of situation.
Yeah.
So
Like if they don't have the Brawl or Medusa answer and that sits on board and you get the Cobra back in your hand and you just need a little bit more reach, then it could be pretty good.
yeah, I think interesting card to look at, and I think that's what Vanishes need. The illusion cards, sorry, not the Vanish cards. Like they needed to be on play. They did something. A lot of people were suggesting rush cards. Like imagine if you had a Vanish that it was like a rush and it did like really awesome, and then it's like I don't care if you remove it. It's already done its job. This card kind of does that with a 2 lore, but you know what I mean. It's not amazing, the 2 lore, is it? And you have to discard a card. But I think like a rush sort of big-bodied character would be awesome.
Yeah. Alright, so let's segue into the next card. And while we are, I do want to go on to Dreamborn because there's a card it really reminds me of. I just want to compare the stats. But this is Pascal, a 4-cost uninkable Amber Amethyst card for Guardian Chameleon. It is a free evasive quest for free. And the card that this really reminds me of is all the way back from when we played Green Farsight. And yeah, I'm right, it is Ray. Ray is basically this card, but +1 ink and an inkable. So getting access to Ray a turn earlier, kind of massive for a color identity in Amber Amethyst that has traditionally been just a hyper aggro deck. Ray was always fairly hard to deal with, but got pushed out of the meta by Smash, and then Emerald ended up moving into more of a discard identity as opposed, which was more control oriented. So they no longer needed the Ray. However, if you were to look at Ray back from set 2, set 3, and you could have it for 1 ink less, you'd probably play it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Ray was played, some people said it was very, because it was like a common or something. And it would just sometimes gave green decks that like bit more reach as well. It was green, wasn't it, Ray? Yeah, because it's like you could do something on board and be like, hey, and I'm going to gain this amount of lore unless you deal this evasive 3/3. But of course, like there's so much steel removal right now. A card like that can't really shine that well. It'd work better in a really heavy red meta that we've had in those earlier sets. I do like this Pascal card. What I like the most is that, as we say, they're trying to give identities to other color combos. This particular color combo, they know the identity of it. They've got it, down to the T, haven't they? Like they know it's an aggro, big questers, just spam them on the board sort of thing. So yeah, they know what that color combo is. That's what I really like about it, and I could see people playing that. Yeah, just pretty decent, isn't it? Pretty decent stat all round.
Yeah, something I remember one of the designers saying all the way back in like set 3, set 2 was it? They said something along the lines of when set 1, 2, and 3 had come out, or when set 1 had come out, but they were all done, right? When set 1 came out, set 1, 2, and 3 were done. They said they were just then working on set 7. So I'd like to think that maybe some of these dual link cards were put in the direction of the identities that players ended up playing them when set 1 came out.
I believe so. I've read somewhere that this is the first set with player feedback. So yeah, I think you are right. This is the first one that they've actually been able to hear what the players wanted and like you say, that how the direction of the color combos have gone, so they could actually which is pretty good when you get into the color combos, because maybe they were like, no, amber purple is the pirate deck. Why is people not playing? There's no pirates in that color combo. I'm giving a really bad example here. But that they've actually learned. It's like, oh yeah, everyone plays hyper aggro, and if you go to your locals, like even at like DLCs, by the way, I remember even in Seattle, I played like a hyper aggro on the Friday and then a hyper aggro on the Saturday. They were like pretty high up tables as well, like closing in on like the day 2 tables. So it's like it's still people love this color combo, don't they?
Yeah.
And especially in a meta where it's like 30% of a room might be Ruby Sapphire. Of course, we've always known hyper aggro struggles into steel, but yeah, it's nice that they're supporting the color combos as well. that are already established.
Yeah, no, going on to think about that, I think Pascal, it's probably going to be played in Purple Amethyst. I think the really interesting thing is that, the feedback, first set with feedback, I didn't know that. So, again, predicting here, going a bit off tangent, imagine how interesting set 9 is going to be working with set 3 feedback, which was the first season of DLCs.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. I mean, this is where we get to the actual direction, of course, because I know Ravensburger, they're really good at being like hooked into the community. Like they spend a lot, everything that's said in like different environments, like Twitter and YouTube comments, like they take all that in, and it's really awesome to see. So of course, if people are upset, and that's not just from like someone whining because they get hit by Sisu all the time. I mean, I whine because I lose to Sisu all the time, but it doesn't mean you should listen to that opinion. Sisu's got a really good spot in the meta, and what it does, it keeps all these aggro decks in check. So yeah, it'd be really nice to see how they react to this information. But yeah, they've got the color combo identities down quite to a T.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, and shall we finish with the last card that you wanted to talk about?
Yes. I mean, this one is pretty simple. It's I can't pronounce that word. The Troubadour. Troubadour. There we go. I'm not cultured. It's just like, I don't know how to say this one without upsetting people. It's almost like a power creep on the 2-cost Ursula that sings for 4. Because you only really play that Ursula in Amber Steel. So the only thing that's a drawback from this card to that card is that it's color locked to this one. But I don't know why you would never play this card and you would play Ursula instead, because resist 1 is just so powerful. The thing that you can take out a 1-drop that attacks for 1, and then a Calhoun could take out Ursula, but now you couldn't do that with this card around. So yeah, I just think it's kind of a power creep. It's just an interesting one to note.
Yeah, no, I think it's good that when they saw a card wasn't seeing much play, then they probably undershot a little bit, and it's good to err on the side of undershooting in a physical card game, because you can't digitally change cards on the fly. So it's good that they saw that it was underpowered, and they're like, hey, maybe if we give it a little bit of a boost, let's see how well it does.
Yeah.
Just because we have limited time, I'm going to segue us quickly into the next card, because I do actually want to talk about it just briefly, just like the last one.
Yeah.
This is Spaghetti Dinner. It is a 2-cost uninkable. Now, this is basically a flute, right? Except you have to pay 1 when you tap it. So you might ask, why would I ever play this? If I'm playing an Amber Gain Law card, why would I play it over flutes? I think the big thing is that flutes force you to play a primarily song-based deck, which was at odds with the idea of trying to rush to gain lore. Whereas when this card's condition is if you have 2 or more characters in play, gain 1 lore, and with these decks you often have a spare lore in play, especially when you start running out of cards or running low on cards, and it aligns with your condition of going wide and questing as much as possible, and also with the Lilos, because imagine you have 2 Lilos in grave, you're at 5 ink, you go play Lilo, and then at the start of your turn tap for 1 lore, and then you're threatening 4 more lore. I just think this is possibly a card that could work in an aggro-based Amber deck, just because it aligns a lot more with the game plan than Flutes did.
Yeah, they've got like a Lady and the Tramp Amber Emerald combo thing going on if you like check the theme of all the colors, because they always make a theme deck. But yeah, I think especially like even in Dock Mines, I love Dock Mines, so I keep talking about, like, you play a Dock, then you play another character, then you tap this for 1. So you get even more out of that combo of Dock into Smee into game 1 lore as well from this card. So yeah, no, there's really good spot with that one.
Yeah. Alright, yeah, and I think that's about it all for our cards today. We actually ran on much longer than I expected. There were a lot of cards to talk about, and there's going to be quite a few to talk about next week. So yeah, hope you guys are as excited for Set 7 as we are. I've been super busy with stuff in life, studying, with our editor's birthday. And, it's probably going to keep being like that for a while. So actually, I have a personal hope that the DLC season doesn't actually start until, like, June, just so I don't miss out on any DLCs. Because I'm starting to wonder if I can justify going to a DLC amidst these life conditions.
Oh, wow. And everyone else just wants them to start sooner. But No,
Yeah.
totally understand. Life before cardboard.
But, I mean, I'm sure it will start shortly after the World Championships happen, which hopefully are happening within 2 months.
Oh, I think they've got Japan and a few other regions they've got to play as well now. And Japan aren't even
Are they
caught
going
up.
to try and...
Yeah,
No,
I think
don't
so.
think they're going to try and get them qualifications, are they? When they've just gotten the game
They're
one month
only
ago?
on set 1. So,
2 months ago?
So
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. It's I think at this point speculating is a bit crazy because no one seems to know what's going on.
Yeah, there's just no info. I've seen many podcasts complain about how there's no info and complain and
Yeah,
talk
we
about
don't
the
have to be
Melbourne
another
DLC
one.
stuff.
That just
Yeah.
that just
But yeah, there is no info.
yeah. There you go. We're keeping you informed at least. There is no info.
Yeah, there's no info.
Yeah. All right, man. We'll...
Oh, yeah, and if anyone wanted us to comment on the Melbourne DLC stuff, I did leave a comment pinned to the last episode because we missed a week. But basically, in conclusion, quite pleasantly surprised with Ravensburger's reaction.
Yeah, so I thought you meant the actual drama, but their response to the drama. Yeah, no, that was really good. They responded. The community was in uproar, and they responded appropriately. That was really good.
Yeah, I think the sad bit is, though, that this doesn't necessarily mean there's a fix to the problem, though, because the only reason this case saw the light was because of how much social media attention it got, which is a lesson to everyone. If something is wrong in the community, complaining is good. Never get annoyed at people for complaining about your favourite thing, because complaining gets good change.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of spotlighted it a bit more. But I think they're growing. They're doing something about it. So this one we could give them a pat on the back for, I think.
Yeah, I was told by a Ravensburger person when I had a complaint about how the EU Championships LCQ were held that I should go onto social media and drive up attention about it. I didn't really do that, I just did it on the podcast, the first episode. But yeah, no, even Ravensburger wants you to complain. They want your feedback, and the best way to get it to them is politely through social media channels. So keep it civil, but make your thoughts known. That's all I have to say on the subject. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to say anything else? You want to shout out stuff?
No, I did do a guide on the Kiwi deck. I know it was very, very late. The gentleman that made the list, Justin, he was just quite busy, and we just managed to finish it just for Store Champs to end. So, you know, there's a month now. If you're going to Axion or there's any events, like, don't feel pressured. Just saying it's out there, because there was he put a lot of work into it, so I really wanted it to see the light of day. So on my Metafy.
Yeah, go get them some money. Spend.
Yeah, it's the price of a coffee, I think.
Coffees are quite expensive these days.
It's like, yeah, I think it's like $5 or something. But
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's cheaper than a coffee.
Yeah, it might even be cheaper than a coffee. Yeah, but
yeah, great value, cheaper than a coffee.
There you
depending
go.
on where you live. Regional pricing may apply. Okay, so yeah, that's all, folks, and we'll see you in the next one.